do have my notes. My husband told me not to use them. I'm going to do the best I can to really just speak from the heart. In preparing for this, I have been all over the place. Write some notes, don't write notes. Just pray and meditate. Say what comes to your heart. I texted a bunch of friends. The ultimate decision, what do you think? When you think of me, you think of my life, ultimate decision, what comes to mind? I got 5 different answers. Thanks. But my brother summed it up pretty good, and he said, you've made so many different decisions. Which one is the ultimate decision? We don't know, but you've been walking this faith walk for a while, and it seems to be paying off for you. So just stay true to your heart. So here it goes. I think this stage is really just phenomenal, what Kim and Adam have here. So I'm really honored to be here, and I thank you for that. My first slide, Kim introduced me as Dr. Melissa Tate, and that is me. But I am a newlywed, and so my name is officially Melissa Tate Screws. That's my handsome husband and all my brown babies. I love you, Anthony. I thank you for all your love and support. I'm so happy to have you in my life. I do honor you. One of the things my pastor says is, if you don't honor someone, they will walk out of your life. So I want to make sure I honor him because I want to keep him. I love you. The thing that is significant about this picture is I'm standing at the altar of my church, Half Life Church, right here in Charlotte. And that altar, yay, Half Life in the house, yes. I was standing at the altar at Half Life Church, and just my walk to even get there was pretty amazing. My walk to get to this stage has been pretty amazing, and it's still a work in progress, but there's so many pivotal decisions made along the way. In a nutshell, I was not raised in the church. A very loving family. My parents were middle school sweethearts. They've been together since they were 13, approaching 50 years of marriage, and really do like each other and love each other, and so that's something that's rare. I was the youngest of 3 kids, only girl. I was not a princess girl. I was a tomboy, climbing trees, playing football with the boys. And, I really did have a great upbringing. And we were a very athletic family, a lot of athletic prowess. We got a lot of accolades in my local town. In Maryland, any Marylanders in the house? Yes. A lot of accolades. But some of my early, I would say, frustrations were with my oldest brother and his struggles with addiction. Very first time that I felt betrayed, ignored. I learned very early as a preteen that your loved ones can hurt you. He would steal to support his addiction. He would steal from us. That was such a betrayal to me. Like, steal from somebody else. Go break in somebody else's house. Don't steal our TV. This is our TV. We want to watch The Cosby Show. You're stealing from us. And that was such a heartbreak to me. And it was something that, here we are 30 years later, and it's something we still deal with, is his addiction. So that planted some seeds of anger in me, some bitterness, some frustration. And all of those things were far outweighed by the love in my family, but those seeds were in there. I was not raised in the church, as I said. I would say my Christian foundation probably came from just a couple of things that you hear in your house. God don't like ugly. So that started, don't be ugly, okay? God don't like ugly. Every year my mom would watch the 10 Commandments, okay? Moses, burning bush, got it. God can do amazing things, okay? Footprints would be on the wall, right? He'll carry you when you're down. You think you're by yourself. God is there, right? What else? That was it for the most part. No really big Easter celebrations, except for Easter eggs. We put on our Sunday best, but we didn't go to no church. we were picking Easter eggs in the backyard, right? I didn't really come to a relationship with God until I was about 22 years old. I was married. It was my first time, besides being in college, it's my first time kind of living away from my family. I lived with my husband in Atlanta, and he was a preacher's kid, very profound, religious family, very well-known preacher in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And that was the first time I really signed up for church, that I really dedicated myself to being there regularly. I had more conversations I had ever had with God because I was in this relationship that was just so broken. I knew on the very first day of my marriage that it wasn't going to last. It was a mess. So 22 years old, on a good day, we're playing video games and we're laughing and we're joking. On its worst day, I was 9 months pregnant, big gash in my forehead, covered with black and blue bruises up and down my legs and up and down my arms. The only thing I knew to do was to get up and go to church the next morning, cover my forehead with my bangs, and go to church. And I spoke to my father-in-law, mother-in-law, who were the pastor and first lady of the church, and they knew what was happening, not to a major degree, but this was a big incident that happened that night. And they said, well, what do you want to do? You know, you can do bad by yourself. When a pastor says you can do bad by yourself, you're really faced with a decision, right? I didn't know what to do. I was 9 months pregnant. I was delivering any moment now. And what I know is that I was so guilty about making the decision to be in that marriage that I couldn't make any decision moving forward. I was still embarrassed, ashamed. Like, why am I in this situation? I got this beautiful family. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be fighting with my husband. I'm not supposed to be so depressed. I have a baby coming. This should be the happiest time of my life, and I was not happy at all. Needless to say, I stayed in that relationship for longer than we would like to think. My parents had been married at that point 35 years, and I was working on 35 weeks. And eventually I left. I mean, I literally left. I just was standing in the foyer. He said, I'm going to the gym. And something said, leave. And I called the police, and I said, I'm going to leave. And if my husband comes back before I get out of here, it's going to get ugly. So he said, okay, I'm going to sit here until you leave. And that's what I did. I had my daughter. I packed a baby bag. I packed one other bag. I called my cousin to come get me, and I left. And I flew out that morning. And before I flew out, I stayed the night at a friend of a friend's house because I didn't know if he was going to find me. And on the nightstand was this little, those Bible calendars. And so I think God strategically placed that there for me. It said, it's a chapter from Luke, a verse from Luke. It said, arise and go thy way. That faith is all they need. That faith is all you need. It will make you whole. That faith makes thee whole. And in my non-Christian way, my daughter's her middle name is Faith. So I said, that's all I need is my baby. I just need to go. So I left. And I pulled myself together, got back home. I felt comfortable again. I surrounded myself with love. I got back into school, did what I wanted to do, eventually got divorced. And I was working in Baltimore City on the mobile crisis team. Now, Baltimore City, I don't know if you guys know, it's a rough city. A lot of drug-addicted, homeless, crime-infested area, and I was right in the middle of all of that. And I'm working on the mobile crisis team, and one of the drug-addicted souls that I had to save was my brother. And I remember being kind of embarrassed, like, here I am on the mobile crisis team, and my brother's in crisis, right? I was also married to another counselor on the mobile crisis team, and he was a functional alcoholic. So here I am again, running the mobile crisis team, but my home and family was in crisis. The first time I didn't have a voice at all. I was frustrated, I was depressed. I didn't want to argue with this angry husband of mine, and I didn't want to argue. The second time I'm dealing with this, brother who, I tried to reach out to him, give him some substance abuse services. He walked out on the unit. I'm dealing with this husband who I felt like he was cheating on me with alcohol. Like that was his girlfriend. Like, hey, hon, want to watch a movie? No, I'm going to go out a little bit. Thanks. So he's out with alcohol all night long. It got ugly. So whereas I didn't have a voice the first time, second time I was mad as hell. And I had a lot of voice, too much voice, that I got to the point where I was so filled with anger. Those seeds of anger just continued to fester in me. And I was the fighter. I was the cusser. I was the fusser. And he just wanted to drink and wanted me to shut up. And I was a very angry wife. So here I am again faced with, how do I raise now 2 daughters in a home where there is alcoholism in my face? Again, embarrassed, angry. But at this point, I just needed to move. I went to bed one night, and my husband woke me up, and he said, I can't promise you I'm never going to drink again. And I said, well, I can't promise you I'm going to stay in this marriage. And I packed some things, and I left the next day. And I wasn't quite sure that it was going to be over for good. I really thought, like, this is going to be it. He's going to change. And that wasn't it. Every time he called me, he was drunk. And I didn't want to talk to a drunk person, so I would hang up. I don't want to talk to you. If you're sober and you want to talk, I'm willing to talk. I learned very quickly that I had to set boundaries for myself, boundaries that were skewed, that I didn't necessarily learn when I was a child because someone was stealing out my wallet, or someone was stealing my children's Game Boy, or someone was stealing the TV from the front living room. And it was time to really get clear about some boundaries in my life, and that was one that I wanted to set because I didn't want my children to see an abusive home or alcoholism or drug addiction in their face. It was time to make some changes. Fast forward, and I'm working in Baltimore still. I was working with some very traumatized young ladies, and I was so burned out. I had been working in crisis mental health care for about 7 years at that point. I was so burned out. I was tired. And I'm working hard. I'm a single mom. I'm trying to do everything I need to do. I was making really good money, but I was tired. I was tired. And I knew I was so burnt out because one day I'm standing at a basketball game. I was seeing some guy at the time, and we were at this basketball game that he was coaching, and my phone rang, and I pushed it to voicemail. Again, learning my boundaries. Like, listen, I'm not at work. Don't call me, right? So push it to voicemail. Push it to voicemail again. Why are you calling me? Push it to voicemail again. And finally I said, what? Like, what do you want? They said, Tate, one of the girls is on the way to the hospital. She tried to commit suicide. Now, you have to understand, this was an everyday occurrence. I'm going to swallow a nail. I'm going to, wrap this thing around my neck. So this was something that was pretty common in the work that I was doing at the time. And I said, okay, well, all right. And they said, no. Like, we had to perform CPR on her. We found her hanging, and we're not sure she's going to make it. I was like, okay. And I hung up the phone. It was a Thursday night, and I was not planning to go to work the next day. And I said, I guess I got to go to work tomorrow. That's how burnt out I was. I was dead. I was tired of fighting. It wasn't until I got into the car where I said, oh my God. I was like, what is going on with me? I had to kind of check myself. And I burst into tears. And of course, the reality of the situation comes in, and I'm thinking, I got to do something different. So I get into work the next day, and everyone's crying. Everyone's all upset. And they're saying, Dr. Tate, we want you to go talk to the counselor. There's a counselor here. And one of my girlfriends is here, and I said to her, I said, I want to talk to this counselor unless she's going to offer me a new job. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I don't need counseling. I need to get out of here, right? So I walk in there. She's like, hi, Dr. Tate. How you doing? You know, we start talking. And it started out, you know, a counseling session. It started out like, you know, how are things going? How are you feeling about this loss? You know, what do you think about all of this? About 5 to 10 minutes in, it turned into, so what exactly do you do here? Okay. What kind of license do you have? Okay. What are your career goals? All of a sudden, I felt like I was at an interview, and I'm thinking to myself, I think this lady's going to offer me a job. And that's exactly what happened. By the end of that interview, she offered me a job. Again, I called it an interview. It was supposed to be a counseling session. She offered me a job, and I learned my voice has power. It can drive decisions that you make. So I was like, oh my God, I walked out of there like, girl, she offered me a job. I walked out of there so excited. And it wasn't something that I left right away, but I had to, you know, kind of wrap up things there. I think I wound up staying maybe another year or so, but eventually I did take that job from that woman. And I moved on, left kind of corporate America. And I remember being so frustrated because I couldn't find a job. I couldn't find a job. I couldn't find a job. And I think, you know how you read a job posting and you're like, yeah, this job is me. Like, all day, I've got this job. I'm way qualified for this, right? No callback, no email, frustrated. And after I had this conversation with this woman, I realized maybe I'm not supposed to be working for somebody else. And so I transitioned into private practice. That allowed me to do some contract work with her. It allowed me to take advantage of some teaching opportunities that I had denied several times over. It allowed me more flexibility and time with my kids, and I was worried. I was like, I'm about to break these kids. I am always working, always taking care of other people's kids. I got one shot at raising these girls. What am I gonna do? And going into private practice offered me that flexibility that I needed in order to be a present mom. I was there, but I was on my phone. I was there, but I was talking. I was there, but I was checking emails. And going into private practice changed all of that for me. It just gave me an accessibility to my kids. I was going on field trips now, and I was packing lunches. I was a real mom. I was a fake mom before. I was a real mom this time. I'm packing lunches, I'm going on field trips, and did that for about a year or so. And then I'm looking at my finances at the end of the year, and I took a major pay cut, taking that I mean, literally probably half. But I was happy. It was better. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at my finances at the end of the year, and I'm thinking, Maryland is not going to work at this income here. What am I going to do? So I go to bed one night, and I wake up, and I said, I think I'm moving to Charlotte. I knew about 3 people here. And not 3 people that, like, I love to death. They've been with me all my life. Like, just 3 random people that I just, you know, knew. And I said, really? I'm moving to Charlotte? So I did my research. I checked out the area, looked at the schools, looked at the mental health field here. And I moved about 4 months later. Everyone looked at me and said, okay, she's moving to Charlotte. Now, I saw this thing once, and, you know, usually we hear faith is, you know, taking the first step without seeing the whole staircase. I saw this one quote, and it said, faith is the willingness to look foolish. And that's what I've been doing all my life is I've been taking these chances thinking, this is going to work out. This is going to work out. And sometimes it worked out, and a lot of times it didn't. But I would say that my move to Charlotte has been amazing. After 2 years here, and I was just being a mommy and just getting situated here and transitioning my life, and I had been far from God. I hadn't been in fellowship since I lived in Atlanta. And I'm laying on the couch, and this was the first time since not living around my family that I could send my kids away for the summer. Amen. Right? Yes. Amen. I send them away. They are gone for weeks at a time, and I'm like, yes. Right? So I'm watching a whole lot of Netflix. Here's my confession. I watched the entire season from beginning to end of Breaking Bad. That's 62 episodes, okay? I watched Orange is the New Black. I watched House of Cards, and I watched The Walking Dead up until the end of season 3. And I'm laying on my couch for hours and hours and days. You talk about a Netflix marathon. And I remember I went to bed, I don't know, 3 in the morning or something. And I woke up, and it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I was like, I should go to church or something. Like I need to be more productive with my day. And I called one of my friends who had been going to this church near me. And I said, you going to church this morning? She said, yeah, it starts at 9. I said, okay, I'll meet you there. Like, shoot me the address. And I walked in this church, and it was amazing. And I loved it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I found a church. So I've been going there ever since. And, introducing my kids to church was a whole nother story. I'm thinking, they need this, right? So we're pulling up in this church. They come back from the summer. We're pulling up in this parking lot. And my oldest daughter, she says, I don't even know if I believe in God. And I'm so therapeutic, right, that I was like, oh, it's okay. I was like, what are you talking about? You don't believe in God. Right? I was like really angry with her. And we're pulling up, and I was like, you're going to give this a chance, and you're going to walk in this church, and you're going to worship, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, how did I raise a kid that doesn't believe in God? Like, are we serious? I'm like, oh, no. So we're in church, and I'm all distracted. I'm like, raise your hands, girl. Like, I'm like making her like get the word, and I'm thinking, Jordan, her name's Jordan, you believe in mermaids because of some documentary you saw on National Geographic. Like, how do you not believe in God? Like, what are you talking about? Let me tell you what God did. He put this documentary on, I think it was on CNN, and it was called Jesus, Faith, Facts, and Fiction, something like that. Faith, Facts, and Forgeries, something like that. And it was about six or 7 episodes all about Jesus. And I was like, Jordan, this documentary is on. She's like, really? My little nerdy girl, y'all don't know. She's so nerdy. So I was like, Jordan, you got to watch this documentary. She got all into it. She's in church. She's clapping her hands. I'm like, yes. I'm raising God's child here. Thank you, CNN. Thank you, Jesus, right? And it's been amazing to see the kids grow up and embrace God. I'm giving them something I didn't have. These decisions that ordered my step, I know that I've just kind of felt this exhilaration. I really had to let go of my anger. I really had to refocus on what was important for me. What was good for me growing up was that I had family and I had so much love, and that's all Jesus. That's all God, right? And I just needed to surround myself with that, and they were getting it from people, but they weren't getting it from God. And that was amazing watching her. Let me tell you, she's approaching her senior year, and she is the prayer warrior on her team. Come on, guys, we're about to run. Track team, we're about to run, let's pray. And she leads the prayer, and I'm like, look at my little prayer warrior. Go ahead, girl. And I met an amazing man at church, Deacon Scrooge. He's ordered my steps in such a way. God has been so amazing. I got convicted one time, and I know I'm out of time, but I was convicted in church one day. A friend of mine was going through some things, and she said, I'm not strong like you. I can't. She's going through some relationship stuff. And I said, well, you don't know what I've been through. I said, I have a story to write. I just haven't written it yet. I said, come with me to church tomorrow. I said, this church is amazing. I said, come with me. So we're in church, and my pastor's preaching from 2 Kings about how you're asking for all these other things in your life, and you're ignoring the fact that he gave you a gift and you're not using it. He said, I don't know who this message is for, but somebody has a story to write. And I was like, okay, God, I got you. I started writing that day, and the fruits of my labor kind of pulled together these 3 relationships that I had, very toxic relationships with my older brother, with my 2 ex-husbands, and pulled that together into this personal and professional story of the things that I went through personally, and just looking back and kind of the professional perspective that I have on it now. And I wrote this book and published it last year, and I didn't plan to write a book, but here it is. And now God is calling me to write more and talk more. And I was in prayer just a month ago. And he said, just keep telling your story. So here I am, telling my story. And the only thing that I could say, just in closing, the ultimate decision, Kim actually posted it the other day. You're one decision away from having a totally different life. And when I look back on these decisions that I made, it really just changed the whole trajectory of my life. And things just keep getting better and better. And I thank God. That's all I can say is I thank God.